Hi, this is John with Performance Plus Tennis. In today's lesson, we're going to cover the footwork patterns and stances that are going to help you generate professional-like power and control on your forehand. You know, it's commonly accepted principle that the kinetic energy chain is a key element to generating power in your tennis game. And if you have the proper stance on your forehand and you learn how to adapt your forehand with different stances, you can create tremendous power by maintaining great balance and rhythm and utilize the kinetic chain. And we're going to cover that today in great detail. And if you stick around to the end, I've got a bonus tip for you that's going to help you quite a bit beyond the basic stances. And we also have a free gift for you that's going to help you not only with your forehand, but with every shot in the game. So the first stance we want to cover is called the closed stance. And this is actually the stance that I want you to avoid and only use when you just sort of happen to have to use it. And the closed stance is really, for me, being a right-handed player, is when my left hand actually passes the right foot to play the shot. So now my legs are closed off. And it really closes my body off from being able to play the shot as well. But there will be occasions when this occurs, but this is not a stance that you really want to play. And I'm going to show you how to play out of it, which is really important. Because when I know that I'm going to play a closed stance, I automatically know I'm going to pivot over that foot and rotate out of the shot. Because if I don't have that intention, when I play the shot, I actually just get trapped and I can't rotate out of the shot. So it becomes very limiting in my ability to generate power. So if you are going to be in a situation where you play a closed stance, just go into it where the intention is to pivot over that front foot and rotate around through the shot so you can actually execute the shot and then get out of the shot comfortably. If you stay sideways, it's just a trap where you're really just pressing your arm into your body and you're not going to generate any power control or have any rhythm in your shot. The next stance we're going to focus on here is what I call the neutral stance or the square stance. And that's really what some coaches call a closed stance, but I think of this as being more neutral, where my front foot is really in a direct line with my back foot in the line of the target. And this is a very common stance and is very useful when you have time and space to play the ball with this stance, and the ball is generally in the middle of the court. This is a little more awkward to use this stance on wide balls because it takes an extra step or two to get in position. But if the ball comes down the middle of the court and I have time and space and I can put my foot in, and I call this idea of putting my foot into the shot or put my foot down in front of me, this is an ideal stance that gives you excellent balance and weight transfer into your shot. So it's very useful when you're playing a medium height or low contact ball in the middle part of the court when you have time and space. And this is the traditional stance that coaches have been pounding into tennis players for years and years and years, but it is not adaptable or versatile enough to use in all situations. But in the situation where you have time and space, the ball's low or medium height in the center area of the court, it is an ideal stance to use. Next up is the semi-open stance. And this is really halfway between the neutral or square stance and a fully open stance. And the semi-open stance is very common and very popular amongst high-performance players and probably used more often than any other stance position along the baseline. And the ideal time to use the semi-open stance or have it just fall into place is when you're moving out for the ball and the ball arrives and you haven't had time to put your foot in. Now you're into a semi-open stance. So it's going to be very commonly used when you run out of time or space from the middle part of the court. And that's ideally when you're going to be using it. You could also use it for high contacts in the middle of the court as well. But in general, it's going to be a stance or a foot position that allows you to play the ball when you don't have time to put your foot in because you've run out of time or space. So again, the semi-open stance is probably the most commonly used because in modern tennis, the ball is coming so quickly that as I move out to play the ball arrives and I haven't had a chance to put the foot in. So I'm now in this 45-degree angle with my feet. I can still get the same degree of shoulder rotation. I can still push off that back foot and rotate into the shot and really drive it. But I save a step because the ball's coming in quickly and I don't have the time or space to step forward to play the ball. Next up is the open stance. And the open stance has a lot of applications in tennis. First of all, it's very, very useful for wide balls. And one of the key reasons for that is it simply takes fewer steps to play the shot. And as an example, if I were going to move out to, say, the medium distance off the court here to the sideline, I'll do a 4-step pattern with a neutral stance. 1, 2, 3, 4 to play it, 5 to finish it. And now I'll compare that to getting to the same distance with a ball that comes much quicker, and you'll see that it only takes 3 steps. 1, 2, 3, and I'm done. So the open stance saves steps, 2 steps. So when you're pushed wide and you're running out of time and space, the open stance is a better option to play rhythm and balance, utilize the kinetic chain, and get great power on your forehand. So a key thing to remember about the open stance is that the open stance is not played with your toes pointing towards the net. So when you're moving over to play the ball, you're not playing an open stance facing the net with your feet facing the net. You'll never generate any power, never get any real rotation from your core. So when you play an open stance, you are going to move out to the ball, and as you play it, your toes are going to be facing more of the side fence, and I've got still get a nice coil, and I can push off and face the net. So the open stance is not open shoulders and open hips. It is space between the feet. But you can still see that I get a good hip rotation and a good core rotation because my toes are facing the side fence. That is a key element to understanding how to play an open stance and generate power and maintain your balance as well. Big key element of the open stance and the semi-open stance is that those are stances that are useful and applicable to high contact points. The high contact point is much easier played with a semi-open or open stance. And the reason being is if I put my foot in and get into what we call a neutral stance, and I try to hit a high contact, it's very difficult to rotate as a unit into that ball. It's very difficult to uncoil and get power. So it makes the high contact very, very awkward, okay? If you have a semi-open or open stance, you can coil your shoulders back beyond your hips, and it's very natural to push off the back leg and uncoil into contact, and uncoil into the contact and generate tremendous power and maintain control. So the semi-open and open stance are the stances that match a high contact point. And that's critical because if you're playing any level of tennis above 3.5, most of the return of serves you're hitting are going to be high contacts. So this stance is going to be very useful for your return of serves as well. First of all, because it saves time when you run into time and space, which often happens on a return of serve, and it also makes it comfortable to make the high contact. So really get out there and work on your semi-open and open stances for these applications because they're going to happen all the time. The fifth and final stance is what I call the dynamic open stance, or double open stance as some coaches may call it. And what happens here is I'm going out to play an open stance, I'm tracking a ball down, and I have to spring to get to the contact. So what occurs is as I spring off of an open stance, and then I end up landing in an open stance. So I'm going out to play open, I spring up to catch the ball, and I land in an open stance position. And you'll use this naturally when you have to spring off the outside leg to get to contact, when the original intention might have been an open stance. And this is an excellent option because it generates easy athleticism and power and rhythm in your shot. Now, sometimes you'll see pros like Novak Djokovic just do a very, very wide stretch, even Nadal, and they'll reach out and play the ball. And the reason why they're doing that is they're trying to save the extra steps so that they can recover, because time is so critical at the speed they're playing the game. What I think we should be doing at the recreational level is developing a balance and a rhythm to play the best quality shot we can. And I'm not sure that for a lot of rec players, this is a position that we could do that in. So I would actually discourage having that extra wide stance and stretch for the ball, and instead move through it with a dynamic open stance, recover, and come back. And I think the end result is you can produce a much better shot. It's also a lot of fun to play that shot because it has such a nice athletic, rhythmic movement to it. So those are your 5 primary stances. Remember that the closed stance is something you're only going to use when it just happens to happen, and you're going to rotate yourself out of that. The other 4 stances you're going to use frequently for all these different scenarios, and they're really going to help you play high quality forehands. Now for your bonus tip. The idea here is, do you slide or do you glide? In modern tennis, we see so many players sliding into their forehands. And it's amazing to me because when I was growing up and playing in the earlier days, nobody did any kind of sliding on a hard court, but we see it all the time now. And the reason, again, that you see it is because players are trying to not move past contact and put themselves in a position where they can't recover. So they're trying to save steps and they're trying to stay in control of the court. But as recreational players, I think it makes much more sense to glide through contacts than it is to try to slide and stop and hit the ball. First of all, I think we're going to get injured if we do that, and I just don't think we can produce the same degree of a high quality shot. So if I use the scenario once again that we talked about earlier with, say, Novak Djokovic, where he'll do everything he can to reach a ball and have this super wide stance and hit a ball, I think that's really difficult for most players to do. Rather than sliding into the shot and sliding out to play the ball, I'd rather see you glide through contact. And this movement is applicable whether the ball's wide or it's short. We oftentimes see professional players sliding into these short balls, even on the hard court, rather than running through the short ball. I'm much more of an advocate of running through the ball, not only so that you don't get injured, but you can hit a higher quality shot, and you can also move forward to the net and be in good position. So, slide or glide? Go for the glide, forget the slide. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you'll take these concepts of the court and learn the different stances that can help your forehand become a professional quality weapon. And for your free gift, click on the link in the description down below to gain access to our library of lessons, where I reveal all the key elements you need to master to achieve your full potential in tennis. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and leave your comments down below. Please turn on your notifications because we're releasing new content every week, and we don't want you to miss out on our latest lessons. Thanks again for watching today's video, and we'll see you in the next lesson.